Was this the best Starcruiser voyage ever? Let's discuss. Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after from Fantasyland to Tatooine and everything in between. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
And we recently got off the May 3rd voyage for Galactic Starcruiser.
Yes, I guess we would say recently. It's been a week, so.
Time is relative. And what was so special initially about the May 3rd voyage that we would celebrate May the 4th on Batu and on Starcruiser. So what we wanted to do is walk through our experience with this voyage and what became so much more than just the voyage.
I think the hard part, just thinking about this conversation, was just there was so much that happened. Like it really snowballed into like an enormous week of Star Wars.
It went from the Death Star to Starkiller Base.
And somehow Palpatine returned.
But in the best way.
Yeah.
Like truly in the best way.
Yeah.
So yes, we were struggling, like, how do we even
Start the conversation.
start talking about it, because there's so much to it.
Yeah.
So, as with all good stories, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay. So, a long, long time ago in this galaxy, 2023 dates for Starcruiser opened up. And I had gotten all of my clients booked. Well, let's back up a little bit. So even before that long, long time ago, when we went on our first voyage, we went as a group of 12. And we knew that we all wanted to return at some point this year. And so we had been trying to figure out what date would work for everybody.
And that's when we were saying that we, with that group, like, we're going to do it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody. Everybody was excited.
It was us. It was Dano. It was Thank the Maker. It was Armor Party. It was a WWE announcer. And then just some really great like cosplay friends as well. And we couldn't figure out a date. Like trying to coordinate work schedules and dates with everybody is just, it's impossible.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult. So once the 2023 dates had opened up, we still didn't have like a good date to pick for our return voyage. And you just like on a whim decided like May 3rd?
Well, so it was, the dates had opened up, and I'm very much in that camp of, if you build it, they will come type of thing. So I was like, let's just pick a day. Let's get a room. And we had used it, like, we had Thank the Maker pretty much in all our room, like, because we were just, you need the names to fill it, to book it.
And we booked the Grand Captains.
And we had booked the Grand Captains. And so it was something that we were like, hey, if you want to come,
put your names down.
We put your name down. And they really wanted to come, but they couldn't, they're
rocks, like they're literal rock stars. They have tours and shows.
So they're like, I can't make it. And so slowly it evolved to like, okay, let's see who other Star Wars obsessed people that would like to join us.
Right.
And that's how we got Dano.
Dano was our, like,
he was like early on that
he was like, just tell me when to show up. I'll be ready. And we worked with Dano. So once we got the room booked and we started trying to figure out who to fill it with, we took a couple weeks to kind of plan and said, let's put it out there to everybody and see who wants to voyage with us on Starcruiser, thinking maybe we would get like a few people, right? And we got more than a few people.
Yeah.
I think between the rooms I booked and then some of our other travel agent friends booked, we had over 100 people in this group on this voyage.
Which is incredible.
It's wild. So it grew bigger than what we initially thought it could ever be. It was just, it's why the concept of that is just crazy to me. But we had work to do. We had to coordinate all of those people being on the ship at the same. As a travel agent, like I had to coordinate a bunch of voyages at the same time. All the 60-day activities came up on the same day. Like, that's something I was not used to. And I stressed about that day. I probably lost so much hair leading up to the 60-day mark because everybody has preferences and they want to get what they want, but across dozens of cabins.
Well, I think the hardest thing that I noticed that was happening was like Ogas.
Yeah.
That was like the biggest one where you can only schedule so many reservations at one certain time.
Right.
Everybody was wanting to go at the exact same time.
Right.
And so you were running into like, hey, I'm going to do it, 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. And, hopefully everybody gets in when they want to get in.
Right.
And then, who knows how the servers are, happening that day. It could get delayed. Something could get delayed and just push everything back or, mess up the whole schedule. But I remember that being like a real stressful point because, people were scheduling things and then that's not including outside factors of just people wanting to go to Ogas on May the 4th. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a big deal to be on Batu that day. So that was stressful. But once we got through that, it was, I don't want to say smooth sailing. We had to make costumes. We didn't have to make costumes.
Well, so we were making costumes, but we also had to fill the rest of our room.
Yes. Yeah. We should. So what we ended up doing is, as you may know, I am Starcruiser obsessed, and I will talk to anybody and everybody about Starcruiser. And so we have lots of friends that are obsessed with Starcruiser, and a handful of them are content creators. And so Brooke McDonald is a reporter that covers the Disney parks. She's obsessed with Starcruiser.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, we're going to do this. She's like, save me a spot. Like, she was like,
I think that was like the funny thing was, it was like, we were like, hey, we're thinking of doing this. And they're like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, there was not a lot of arm twisting. But then we also brought Peter and Kitra on board from Ordinary Adventures. So it started off as me, Dano, and Peter. Back before Starcruiser even opened, we had this like Starcruiser group chat, and we would just cover like any news that came out about Starcruiser. We talked about it, and we talked every single day about it. And then we added you and Kitra to the conversation, and still it became a thing where we were constantly talking about Starcruiser. So we're like, y'all, we're going to have this like really fun time. It'd be really great if you came with us. And they were having like construction and stuff done at their house. So we're like, we're going to try to make it work. And they did. So they got to come with us. And
I think the cool thing is like, I think this was the first time that we really got to just like hang out with them, as far as just like a voyage. Or like just like a trip type of thing.
Chill, yeah.
Because most of the times it was just kind of like,
let's grab lunch. Let's grab
drinks. Yeah. It was very much like we're just meeting and then heading out.
Right.
So that was really cool. And then they brought along their
Reza,
friends.
Who's a friend. He was on the media voyage. He's really fun too. I met him last year at D23, and then his friend Steve. So we had we had a Steve and a Steven in the room.
But it was, there was a lot of us, right? First trips, there was someone with the first trip, second trips, third trips, like a full range there. Yeah. And so it was exciting to hear, the first trip person to tell us, oh, this was going on, or like,
we're like, Steve, sit by the captain.
Like, tell us this, tell us what's going on. What do you got next type of thing. And having that like within our room.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I think we'll get to the actual Starcruiser itself, but we love a costume.
Yeah.
We love to overdo it with costumes also. So we ended up converting our dining room. I had been, I think, lobbying for it for a while because I'm like, we don't ever use it. We never dine in there. Let's just use it for crafting. And so that snowballed.
It's like it's an explosion. It feels like it's we start in one little area and then slowly just like, and I'm bad about it. I know I'm the worst at it because like I need one space for if it's sewing, another space for the leather working, another space for measuring things,
making your patterns.
Yeah, so it's like I know it was because of me. My
Thank you.
ADHD was just like I go from one thing to the next and don't go back and clean it up. I admit it. You heard it here first.
It's one of those things where I walk by and I'm like,
but yes, it was really nice to have that space to just be able to like have things out and be able to work.
Yep.
And then it kind of became like a little studio because we had to buy a clothes rack, and we made the sewing machines out. And
we made mannequins. Like we brought our big mirror in there, and then we made mannequins or busts of ourselves to try these clothes on. But we did it at the beginning of the year when we had started like dieting and eating better. And so by the time it was like final fittings, we're like, these are too small on our butts, which was great.
Yeah.
Right. But we're like, well, now we just have like 2 like duct tape busts in our dining room, and we don't like, we just look at them.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, hey man.
Well, it's nice to be able to, hang the
jacket,
clothes.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so that was funny. But we did you costumed way more than I did.
And I think we had kind of talked about this before, but you kind of went in wanting to do the entire outfit, like sew and create the patterns and do everything.
I had big dreams.
And I was more I wanted to just modify. Right. Because I had modified my jacket before, and I was like, you know what, I could do something like that again, and I'll have more time.
Yeah.
And we started as soon as we said, we had booked it. We were slowly working on it, doing concepts and stuff like that. And for me, I quickly realized that I'm not going to be able to get the look that I want without me doing it.
Which I think is our toxic trait. Like, well, if I just did it myself, it would be exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the other part of it was the figuring out how to do all this stuff.
Right.
Because like, oh yeah, I could do it, but I have no idea how to do it.
Right. And I think we should dive into like the specifics of costuming and like trying all these new things like separately. But yeah, you went full out and you ended up making almost everything yourself. I did the complete opposite approach, and I pretty much just bought all of my stuff and then made or modified accessories. But
they all came out great.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out. We were clothed. That's the most important part.
The interesting thing on that for me was during that whole time, I didn't get stressed. Like there was points that I got frustrated with, like not knowing how to do it.
Yeah.
But I was able to overcome, I threw a fit and I'm not doing this, got mad, but I went back to it later and I was able to achieve what I was wanting to achieve.
It was a good stress.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it wasn't a stress. It was more of the frustration of like trying to learn this new hobby and not just immediately getting it.
Right. And I think that was something we learned is like all of the stresses we dealt with leading up to the voyage were things we fully put on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once you realize like, oh, it's my own fault that I'm stressed right now. I put myself in this situation. Okay.
But yeah, there was never something that I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. It was just like, again, that frustration with like the costumes.
Now to clean the dining room. But let's fast forward to May 2nd, right? The day before the voyage, we land in Orlando. This is when it starts for us. This is when the trip starts for us.
And I mean, huge shout out to our family that was able to take care of the kids for
not able to take, like willing and like happily bring them
for the period. So thank you, thank the family. But no, it was great because we were able to do an adult trip, right? And do this thing without having to the worry of just dragging the kids along.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to.
I wanted to make sure I pointed that out.
Yes. Thank you very much, Emily. We could not do it without them. No. But we show up in Orlando May 2nd, and there were a lot of things that were extra activities and events, or even just things that people going on this voyage planned. I don't think we talked about that. We thought it was going to be a few people. Like, oh, we did. Yeah. It's over 100 people. There's a Facebook group associated with this voyage. And there's Facebook groups associated with most voyages where people can go in there and kind of say like, hey, I have the swag, I'm going to pass out. Or, oh, I got bridge training at this time. Who else is in it? This Facebook group was wild. And they were like, we've got secret missions we're planning. We're going to do these extra card games. And everything that was done outside of the story.
Well, and I think that was the beauty of like the group, the community that it became.
Yeah.
Because it was very much like, hey, we're going to go on this date. If you want to join us, let us know.
Right.
And we'll meet you there. And it's slowly snowballed. And the Heroes of the Halcyon, they said, hey, there's going to be people that are going to be on Batu May 4th, but not necessarily on Starcruiser.
Or they work on Starcruiser.
They work on Starcruiser, or they live in, Orlando, and they want to come just hang out.
Yeah.
Like just meet everybody before.
Right.
And maybe we get those like jitters out before Starcruiser.
Which was genius.
A genius idea.
And I think theirs was kind of the same as ours, where they were like, it's just going to be a small meetup. We'll just we'll pick a bar. It'll be like maybe a dozen people. It ended up being, they said they covered it in their last podcast episode, 80 people that were there. And they had, it was a whole thing. There was a silent auction.
Yeah.
DJ Elliott was there. They had it was a ticketed event. You got drink tickets. You had little desserts and all, it was a big event.
Yeah.
For this voyage that we were about to go on. But it was so nice to pre-meet all of our fellow passengers and just other people that love Starcruiser.
I think that was a cool part. Getting to meet people that were going to be on the voyage and kind of like in that more casual way. We're not dressed up, and if per se, we're not characters. Yeah, you're not characters. You're just yourself. So you get to meet people. And then again, people that were not going to be on the voyage, cast member friends that, that weren't going to be working, or they don't work necessarily on Batu or Starcruiser. But we got to meet them there. Right. And hang out with them and stuff. So I think that was it was a cool, just pre-game to Starcruiser.
That's exactly what it was a pre-game. It was great. We were like, we're going to show for an hour so we can get plenty of sleep. And Planet Hollywood, where it was held, kicked us out.
Yeah, it was, we definitely went, we're going to go rest. We're going to go rest. And that was the biggest lie we told ourselves. Exactly. That was the biggest lie we told.
Oh my God.
Because we went back to the hotel, and then that's when we stayed at a Disney resort. Yep. And got to just hang out with friends. Yeah. And I think that was just it very much felt like a camp, right?
It was so great. Yeah. So we didn't stay with the people that were going to be in our suite, but with people that were going to be in the other suite, which are friends of ours. I think we knew everybody going into it. Yeah. But it was like a sleepover. At one point we were all in one bedroom, just sitting there laughing. It's been so long since I've been on a sleepover, but that's exactly, now that you say it, what it felt like.
Yeah. And I think that just that overall connecting theme of this is Star Wars brought us together, but we became friends. And I don't know if we were necessarily talking about anything Star Wars, there weren't any I'm thinking that day, that evening in particular is I don't think there was anything Star Wars particular that we were talking about. It was just, how we're doing, family, and just having conversations. And I think that's the beauty of just the, Star Wars and the community that we've kind of, fostered, is we're just supportive of each other, and being able to just expand on that. And it doesn't have to be just one particular thing. It doesn't have to be Disney. It doesn't have to be Star Wars. It doesn't have to be Starcruiser. It's, okay, we've become friends, we're friends now, and we could, expand on it.
Right. Which is great. So we hung out with them the night before, and then the next day we got up and got ready for Starcruiser. Some of us...
I'm smiling. I'm seeing if you're going to...
I'm going to talk about it. So we were in a room with 8 people. We were in a nice... My palms are sweaty. We were in a room with 8 people. I am apparently a diva.
I'm looking at the camera. If you're listening,
You're trying to avoid eye contact
I'm
with me?
looking at the camera. I'm not saying anything.
So here's the thing. I have no issue getting up early to get ready because I know that it just takes me a long time to get ready. This requires a lot of work. And we had other things going on. We went and had breakfast. I actually like called Starcruiser to book somebody on Starcruiser like before I got ready. I was trying to like curl my hair and like read over on my laptop to like get these people booked while I'm getting ready. Anyway, I am always working. And I had these, am I going to be infamous for space buns now? Is this my thing? So I was going to use fake hair pieces for my buns. And I wasn't liking the way that it looked. And so game time decision, like a few days before we left, I decided to just try to use my real hair. I'll shorten the story at this point. It wasn't working. Everything else was ready. Everybody else was ready. And I'm stressed because there are so many people that are ready to leave and they're waiting on me. And I think my nerves from going into an environment where I knew people by name and I had booked them and they put their trust in me, but I didn't know who they were. We coordinated, pieces of this big group takeover. I got so stressed and my left bun would not cooperate that I had a full-blown panic attack. Truly, it was a full-blown panic attack. And I was so mad because I just finished my makeup and I have tears just rolling down my eyes. I couldn't breathe. I freaked out. And I'm human, and that's okay.
Yeah. Finally
calmed myself down after like the 20th attempt of getting this bun in. It's good enough. I'm like, let's go. I was so angry.
It felt like that episode of How I Met Your Mother where Marshall was like dyed his tips.
Blonde for his wedding,
and he gets frustrated and just like
shaves it. Oh my god, that's what it felt. I probably would have shaved my head. I would have done it in the moment. I was so mad at my hair, and then I get there and everybody's like, "Oh my god, your hair looks so good," and I'm like, "I don't want to talk about my hair at this point." But I think really what it was a mental block. I was nervous going into it.
Yeah,
this was something that we thought was going to be so small and ended up being so big. And it was happening. And there was, at that point, nothing else I could do to make it successful. It was going to be what it was going to be. And it was terrifying to me.
Yeah.
You can hear it in my voice right now. Like I'm getting emotional about it because I was just like, I was terrified. And I didn't need to be. Spoiler alert. It was perfection. Yeah. But we get there, and because we're staying at a Disney resort, you get a late checkout of noon. Starcruiser checkouts at 1, so we were staying really close by. So we got to Starcruiser at like 12:20, I think.
Which was still...
There was like 50 people in front of us or more.
We were still kind of like on the back end of the line.
Right. But it was nice because there were so many people there. And so if we didn't meet them the night before at the muster meetup that Heroes of the Halcyon put on, then we got to meet them in the line. Or if we saw them the night before, it was like, hey, long time no see.
I think the best thing about like hanging out there was people that had listened to the prior episode and they're like, having costumes out here would be really nice. Like being able to pick up your, last minute belts or, whatever. Like that was like the best part.
Did people say that?
Yeah. Because they were just like, yeah, I think they could pull something out right here and, while we're just sitting here waiting.
Let us spend money.
Yeah.
We will. So we get into the ship. It was 1:00. They start loading people in. I think we were on the ship by probably like 1:20 or 1:30.
And I know you're grazing over that, just like, oh, we got on the ship, but I was very excited to get on the ship. It definitely felt like the first time, getting on the ship, because there was just that energy, waiting in line, waiting and waiting, that anticipation of getting on the elevator to just get to that the atrium.
Did you cry?
No, I mean, I'm
part droid.
Yeah, I felt something, but I didn't.
It's called emotion.
But it wasn't like oh my gosh, is so like it's gonna take a lot for me to
Yeah.
but I did feel like excitement. There was
Yeah.
excitement, and I was excited for like what was coming.
I think all of the ladies in our cabin cried when the doors opened because it was just like all of us had been before and we're like, we're back.
Yeah.
I think Dano started crying too, but he wouldn't admit it. But that was nice too, because we all got there. We coordinated getting there at the same time, so we were able to board together and hang out and meet each other in person because not all of us had met each other. But anyway, so we get on the ship, we do a tour of the room, and it was just instant that we knew the people in our room. Like we were all going to get along great. Like, because there's a crawl space in the Grand Captain Suite and in the Galaxy class suite. There's a crawl space between the living room and the main bedroom. And I think almost instantly we all just like took turns crawling through it. We're like, look at this. This is so fun. And taking pictures in there. It was just.
Now the other, like, it was super fun, but what is it for? Like, what would they?
I heard it is for your droid to drive through.
Okay.
It's just a crawl space. I don't know.
It's very peculiar.
What are you going to do? You're going to drive it through and then you don't see it on the other side.
So yeah, it's interesting, but I'm like, I don't,
I don't know. But yeah, so we tour
but man, the captain suite was nice.
Beforehand, we were like, this is going to be a one and done type of thing.
I think that's what we need to stop saying. Something's going to be a one and done, because I feel like when we say that, it's going to.
We jinx ourselves. Yeah.
Because it was super cool.
It was fun.
So the room is not that much different than a single room. Like the two rooms, they're exactly the same.
I think the Grand Captain Suite is about the size of 3 standard cabins.
Yeah.
You have literally one standard cabin on one side of it, and then the living room in the middle, and like the little bar area, and then the main bedroom. It's weird. Like we'll get into like those types of things, but let's like move through the voyage and talk about what made this voyage so great, right? So we did what we typically do. We go stuff our faces in the Crown of Cornelia dining room. That's a little Easter egg for people that have had to wait online many hours with Starcruiser. But we ate and we got to bond with people there too.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. But we get to when the story kicks off. And we're not going to go into any spoilers in this, but we get to when the story kicks off. It's the actual muster, not the muster meetup. It's the actual muster. And Captain Keevan gets up there and says, "Welcome to the Starcruiser Halcyon." And the place erupted. And it was, the applause was so prolonged that like we were all standing up. We couldn't give a standing ovation, that you could see the cast members almost kind of like literally we're up there like, oh my gosh. You could see the crew members doing it. Like all of us were just like, this is really special.
And that's just kind of that kickoff of like, this is going to be a good weekend.
This is where the fun begins.
Yeah.
And it did. It was just, it started off strong and it stayed strong for the whole voyage. So we go through the story the first day. We had captain's table, which we had never experienced before. And that was great.
Yeah.
You get like extra courses. You get to sit in the center of the dining room. You get some time with the captain. Like that was lovely.
Yeah. When we were kind of, we're with a bunch of content creators. So we're picking apart like, oh, well, this is new. This is different. This is whatever. And when we were talking about that, the captain's table, like that, they had raised the price, but not like significantly.
It went from $30 to $50.
And I think it was a fair, a fair adjustment, because you have the extra food,
yep,
which is nice, and you have the extra face time with a character.
You get a toast.
Yeah, and the coin with the medallion.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like our full room, and there was like another room that was able to fit on that one table.
Right.
So it gives opportunity for, a decent amount of people to be able to participate in that. And the fact that they didn't like just jack up the price. I think that was, again, I felt like it was a fair price, fair adjustment for that.
Yeah. It was, again, one of those things that I was like, well, once I do it, I'm good.
Yeah.
But my goodness, that miso shooter we had.
Oh, that was really good.
I would pay $50.
I was so surprised
just
because
for that.
So the miso soup, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it was like a miso soup in like a
test tube.
Like a test tube. And it had a tofu,
like a crispy tofu cube on it.
And we kind of thought it was going to be like I don't know. I didn't know what it was going to be. And you take a little bite of the crouton and
it's hot.
Yeah.
The shooter was hot. I literally would spend $50 for one of those shooters again. It was that good.
It was very good. It was once like you just take a taste of it and you're like, oh, I really like this. And then you just down the rest of it.
Yeah. Let me enjoy it. Never mind. It's gone. So we did Captain's Table. We had lightsaber training that day too. And that was our first time doing lightsaber training together.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
Yeah. It was super cool.
Yeah. Do you remember all of it?
Yeah, most of it. Because the drinks had started.
Oh man!
Like right this before muster.
We started before muster. We started at lunch.
Yeah, lunch. So
I think I was 2 drinks in by the time the story started.
The libations were.
It's the difference of going with kids and without kids.
Yes.
But lightsaber training was great. The story concludes on night 1, and then there were people that were doing extra activities, right? So they had like secret missions or sabacc games going on, but it was all optional after the fact. But what that meant, and we kind of planned it this way too, is that we had pins made for the voyage for you, me, and Dano to pass out to people, and we like put them with little sticker packs, and we said, hey, we're going to be in the Sublight Lounge afterwards. If you want one, that's the time to do it, because we're not going to lug around these tote bags the whole time. Sublight Lounge was packed.
Yeah, it was.
I don't ever recall going in there and being like, oh, open tables.
it felt like a cantina moment. You know, there wasn't the character, you know, the cast members that worked, they were there, but
phenomenal, by the way. But
just seeing, there was the guests were, characters, and were aliens and were dressed, there was majority people costumed. So it was like super cool just walking in and, packed corners and, people, again, having sabacc games going on and, little missions and bounties on the table and stuff. So
it was cool. And I think that's a good call out is a lot of people say, oh, how many people dressed up on our voyage, like on our Facebook groups and stuff. This had to have been the highest amount of people dressed up. It was like 90%.
And it wasn't like they were dressed up as any character. They were their own characters. I think that was like the coolest part of it. It was like, it wasn't, a bunch of Anakins, a bunch of Obi-Wans. Yeah. It was like guests dressed up as characterized, their characters.
Their own characters, which is really cool. Yeah.
And that was like the cool part of it. Like you would meet people and talk to them. They were like, give you their space name and have a conversation. And then like, okay. And then they would have I got to talk to you real quick type of thing.
It was fun. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to dress up at all. You don't have to have a backstory, but people were just really amped for this. And you could just tell by the level of detail people put into their backstories, their costumes, the swag that they handed out.
Oh yeah. And we kind of went through it on our last live.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to it, you could go watch it on YouTube.
We didn't even show all of it. I found a whole other bag of stuff.
I think the coolest part was like, there was like scoundrel handoffs of like, hey, I smuggled this on board from this planet. And then, we would give our pins out this kind of the same way.
It was fun. We've never done anything like we've never done like swag exchanges. I'm sure there's a cooler term for it. We've never done that. So that was new to us and we loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sublight Lounge, it was open. So how it used to be is that Sublight Lounge closed at 1 a.m. the first night and 2 a.m. the second night. As Starcruiser's been open for a while, and like the numbers dwindled. Like it wasn't just the diehards going on Starcruiser and they weren't as packed of voyages. Over time, they moved it to just closing at 1 a.m. both days. Because people weren't even staying that late. So they were like, well, we don't need to be here till 2.
Yeah.
We shut down Sublight Lounge 1 a.m. night 1. And they told us that night, they said, you guys are probably not going to want to leave at 1 a.m. tomorrow. So we're going to stay open until 2 a.m. for you. So they knew, right? They knew we came to play and came to play sabacc and drink libations. So that was really cool. The fact that they recognized that like, hey, these people really want to be here and just enjoy the ship and not just go sleep because we didn't do that. That was neat.
I don't think it hurt either that crate reactors were being ordered all night. So
yeah, we went a little too hard the first day. Mom and Dad's day out resulted in a dry day on day 2 for the most part. But that was night 1. It was perfect. It was wonderful to meet so many people, see so many people dressed up.
And we're not even talking about the story. Like there's so much that we were enjoying next to it.
Right.
That the story was more of just that ship that was taking us along this ride.
Yeah. And that's a good call out. It is a little not weird for me, but it's different for me because I have befriended so much of the cast and the crew on Starcruiser just over the time that we've been and I've obsessed over it.
And I think the thing too is it's not just you've befriended them, but it's one of those again like I'm thinking about like the crew.
Yeah.
Like there was so much like we were just like going to get lunch and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're back." Like that was like so incredible. You know, our server at the captain's table,
Brian,
remembered our little one.
Yeah.
And you know, he's like, "Oh, where's little Wani?" And it was just like oh my gosh, like incredible that they would remember, you know,
us out of the hundreds of voyages that have now taken place.
Yeah. And again, that's where I think it's just,
it's magical.
They make that magic, you know, happen.
Big time.
But I think too, on that flip side, us showing up with this group that's ready to play, it was received like just as well. Like when you talked about that ovation that kind of happened for the captain, there was that all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with the Ways of the Saja, I know that was being a new thing, but there was just like a huge, like in my head, I was thinking it was more going to be a couple people,
like 3 or 4 people watching the Saja. It's a new thing they added to get you to understand who the Saja are, and you learn like a greeting and a little bit of the culture. I'm gonna say that was probably the biggest Ways of the Saja. There were like 30 people, and so
it was like an entire like atrium full of people.
Poor Saja Dax. So he's like, let's make a circle. And so we made a circle, and then more people come. He's like, okay, now everybody turn sideways so we have enough room to do this, because you have to like step to the side. It was wonderful. Yeah. It was just everybody that was there, and none of this is like a product of us at all. It was just everybody that was there just wanted to play.
Yeah.
It was, and that was the theme throughout the whole thing. Was everybody just was there to have a great time and live their Star Wars story and facilitate other people having their Star Wars stories, which was cool. So day 2 comes around. We got minimal sleep, and it's Star Wars Day. Gaia's album comes out. We're going to Batu on May the 4th. There's merch drops that are happening and virtual queues to get into for the merch.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah, I think the merch. So going into it, as you recall, I was a bit annoyed that East wasn't getting the love for Star Wars, the foods and the different
Star Wars Day, right?
For Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
So I was a bit little. There was
miffed.
Miffed. But then they also dropped merch on May the 4th.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing was the sabers.
The Cal Kestis lightsaber.
And there was kind of that rumbling of like, well, what's going to happen? Are we going to wait? And like, there was that worry of, am I going to be able to get them if I want to get them? Or is it going to kind of ruin my Batu day? Because you don't get a full day, you know, on Batu. So if you have Ogas, or if you have a lightsaber, you know, you're building a lightsaber, or you're doing, you know, building a droid, like
you have
doing
to do
missions.
the rides, you have to do the missions.
So
There's
like,
a lot going on.
So you have all this stuff. Like, are you going to have time to go get merch?
Right.
And I think that was like a stressful point for some people, that they were worrying like, hey, can I get in there? And the other part we were kind of looking at is the first voyage, or first transport, is at 8. So it's early, but it's still not as early as
early entry people.
And the early entry people are going to be wanting to get that same merch.
Yep.
So it was, again, it was stressful for some people.
Yeah.
I definitely got, you know, that hype bug bit me, and I'm like, oh, should I go get one? Should I go wait in line? But it was one of those, like, I talked myself out of it because I didn't want to wait in line, spend my day
waiting for that, for something that you weren't even that excited about the day before.
Yeah.
It was just that, like, everybody else was doing it.
Yeah.
But Batu was great. There was an actual extra activity that one of our fellow passengers planned, which was a group photo in front of the Falcon, which was super fun. And it was funny because I think it was at 9:30 maybe, and we got there at 9:27, and there's like a handful of people. I thought it was kind of scary
because it was like, you know, Galaxy's Edge gets kind of packed.
And it was packed that day.
Yeah. And we were like, okay, this is about the time, you know, looking at our watches, and we get next to the Falcon, and almost immediately there's just everybody converging at one time.
Everybody was very prompt.
So I was very nervous that like Disney was gonna shut us down because they thought it was just some like crowd.
Yeah, because there was probably 40 people that came for that group photo in particular. Because like not everybody's gonna make it because they're going and doing their own stuff. But it was like, if you can make it, cool. We took the group photo, and then I think like little groups of people took photos together afterwards, and then we went and we knocked out our missions before that even happened.
Oh, but Rise was down.
Rise was down, which, what else is new? So we ended up doing Smuggler's Run, and you can do it if you're going to have a mission to do Rise of the Resistance as part of your story, and that's not a spoiler. You can hack it and say, well, actually they give you an option now. They're like, the resistance doesn't seem to have risen this morning or something like that. And so you select that, and it'll take you through the rest of the story. But we were able to get on it before we went back. And I think that was probably one of the last things we did, is we weren't going to go to Oga's. We went to Oga's.
Yeah, we weren't planning on it, but we ended up.
Peer pressure. And then after Oga's, we went to Rise of the Resistance. And then I think that was it. And we were back on the ship by 1:00.
Yeah.
We did lunch, hung out with people, and we just kind of had a nice afternoon to just not necessarily chill, but just.
Yeah, in preparation for the evening.
Right. So that was nice. And then again, not getting into any story spoilers or anything like that, but we didn't even talk about it. Night 1, that's the evening with Gaia. And we did coordinate an extra activity for that, and we just bought a ton of purple glow sticks, much more budget friendly, and passed them out to everybody in the dining room. Whether they were with our group or not, we're like, if you want in on this, get in on this. And it was a really cool moment when Gaia came out. We had cracked all the lightsabers right beforehand, and so we waved them.
Glow sticks.
I
think you're saying lightsabers because there was some people that had some purple lightsabers, and it really outshined the glow sticks.
The glow sticks looked so dinky in comparison, and then there were some people that bought
the bigger ones,
glow sticks.
So
we're
next
ding,
time,
ding, ding, ding.
Next time we got to step it up a little bit.
A little bit.
Gaia deserves more.
That's some envy. But that one was really fun, and there were just little things like that.
I think it was a cool little added feature that's just having this concert, and
right, and in no way impacted the story, affected the story at all. It was just ways to plus up our voyage because there were going to be so many people there. So we're like, what are things that we can do? Group photos, glow sticks, those types of things. So day 2 happens. We do the the rest of the story, and then it's over. And it was sad. We got to say, I think we hung out extra long in the atrium to like talk to all of the characters that hang out after the finale.
Yeah.
And I think I cried a little bit, which thank goodness one of the people, big shout out to Lady Carrie, who like bought tissue packs.
That was the swag.
And just afterwards, just passing out tissue packs to everybody. She's like, here, Sarah, take 4. But again, we go into, before we even get to the Sublight Lounge that night, we had organized a one-way out Narkina 5 photo op.
Yeah.
That's all we thought it was going to be. It was just like a funny little haha.
And that's what it started. It started as a joke of like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we were, we had Narkina jumpsuits, and, some way or another, we ended up with 501st qualifying jumpsuits, and we let other people know, hey, we're gonna do this, and it was great. It
was so funny.
Everybody had their little spin on it, and
we had one guy that showed up with like a Darth Vader floaty and goggles, and was like, I can't swim. We had Bosk showed up in a jumpsuit. There were so many people that bought like the Hobbit feet.
Oh yeah.
Everybody just was really into it, and it wasn't about like the whole Andor prison breaking out and like the politics of that. It was just about uniting people to get together and have a good time.
Yeah.
It was to unite people, and it was great. So we did a photo op. We very respectfully chanted one way out down the stairwell and then back up again. So it was kind of 2 ways out because we went down and we went back up. But we did that way after hours after the story concluded. I was harshly whispering at people like, be quieter, when we were passing by cabins for people that don't want to participate or resting. And then, it was just everybody hung out in the atrium and did their on programs. And most people just went into the Sublight Lounge after that in their jumpsuits. Yeah. And so it was just like
everybody
a lounge.
In their PJs.
Yeah, if that's what it was. They were little space PJs. And so I don't think we shut down the Sublight Lounge night 2. But it stayed open until 2 a.m. and people were just hanging out. Crate reactors were flowing. And it was wonderful. And it felt like the end of summer camp at that point. Somebody even had a yearbook that they passed around.
Yeah, that was cool.
And had everybody sign it. Shout out to Gabby, who did so much for this voyage. But people are passing out swag and taking pictures with one another. And
I think this time leaving, it was a lot harder for me.
Really?
To leave. Like I didn't want to leave. And again, there wasn't like a tear, like that kind of emotion. I didn't leak, but it was definitely one of those things. I felt like I don't want to go. Like I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
For whatever reason it was, but I definitely had that feeling when we were leaving. I was just kind of like lingering and, talking to different people and just kind of like, I didn't want to leave.
And I think that was the general consensus of everybody. I'm shocked I did not cry. After hugging the cast to death, which I don't recommend doing, but just like saying my thank you to all the cast at the end of night 2. I think that's me saying goodbye to friends that I have, right? And I don't know. Here's my sentiment on it. And I think why I didn't cry is it was very much because it's kind of a grieving process, right? Like when something goes so well, and it truly was, in my opinion, it was a near perfect voyage. It was so much more than anything we could have thought of when we had this idea. People put so much of themselves into it, and everybody got along so well. We had all these different friend groups that were mixed, and they mixed perfectly with one another. When you throw a birthday party for your kid and you invite your friends and your family and your other friends and maybe a couple of your coworkers, and you're just like, everybody's going to be in their own corners. This was not that at all.
No, it wasn't.
Starcruiser is such an incredible unifier of people. But I think the reason that I haven't cried is like when something happens, when you're grieving something, is not, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened.
Yeah.
It was just so good. I could not have asked for anything more out of that voyage.
Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely one of those things, again, like I didn't want to leave it, and I'm appreciative to have been able to experience it. It's, I don't even know how to put it into words, just like how in a moment that was. Like, that was just a moment that we were able to experience, and like I'm super glad we were able to experience it. And there's going to be more, right? There's going to be other types of experiences like that, but being able to say like this is what we experienced is kind of that is that once in a lifetime, but there isn't that fear of like, oh, it's never going to happen again.
Right. But it was the first time for something to happen like this for us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of emotions. I had a full-blown panic attack beforehand because I was so afraid of so many things that could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And I think but mostly I was just like relieved. I was like, oh, thank God. Now let's go ride roller coasters. But looking back just on the voyage itself, I am in awe of every single person that was involved in any sort of way, whether you were a passenger that paid to be there, whether you were a crew member who showed up to work that day and decided to make delicious coffees for all of us and have us guess what flavors you put in there, or just tell us funny backstories, or you were the cast that poured your heart out into that role for us to have these incredible experiences, for the people behind the scenes that we don't even see.
Yeah, I think that afterwards, learning that this was a voyage that the cast needed. I think there was like this moment of invigorating them. You know, that what they're doing is reaching people. It's just they needed to see it in that fashion, and I think that was like the beautiful thing afterwards. Just kind of like that you deserve this all the time because of the hard work you do. It's just you don't get to see it in that fashion,
and that's what breaks my heart the most. Maybe this is where I'll start crying. That's what breaks my heart the most, is that it took 100 people that really love Starcruiser to show up so big to kind of say like, no, we really love what you do and we want this to be around for a long time, to have that impact on the cast and the crew that work there. They deserve this every single voyage.
Yeah.
And we can't do it every single voyage. We have limited credit. But let's fast forward a little bit, because we can dive deeper into talking to the cast and crew after the fact. We went and had a day at Universal. We went and did an escape room with some friends, and then like we just did not stop all weekend. But that night of disembarkation, May the 5th, we went to a Revenge of the Fifth emo party where we were asked to host the cosplay contest because we are
cosplayers extraordinaires.
I think they put like cosplay experts in one of the, I was like, no, this is from Amazon. But it was an emo party. It was put on, one of the people that put it on is actually one of the cast members, like one of the characters that works on Starcruiser. And so they invited us out to do that. And it was kind of like the muster meetup, but the reverse.
Yeah.
Where it was very intense because it was like emo music and loud and dark in there. But passengers from our voyage were there, crew were there, cast was there. Just everybody was there to have a good time. So you're like, is that our captain?
No, it definitely was that like bow, you know, on top of that Star Wars weekend, because, you know, again, we kind of came in with the meet and greet and being able to hang out, easing into Starcruiser, having the, you know, intense 2-day, 3-day story, and then closing it off with just like, man, that was that was something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And having like that debrief afterwards, like it was just like a full weekend of Star Wars. And again, it was like before there was Star Wars friends, but weren't necessarily Star Wars. During Starcruiser, there was Star Wars going on, but it was the extra stuff that really like drew us in and you know, captured our enjoyment. And afterwards was, again, that Star Wars thread was there, but it was the friends that we were saying basically goodbye to.
Yeah. But the big sentiment that we got talking to the crew members, to the cast members, to the passengers that were there was that it was the best Starcruiser voyage ever, which blows my mind. Like, but we heard from, you know, even on the ship, they were saying it was the best voyage ever. And that is through absolutely no, like, that is not on us. That was on everybody that showed up and did all of this, and just the energy
but
of
that's
the
the thing, is like, it's not one particular person. It wasn't any one particular person. It was just that whole, just that energy that everybody was putting into it.
The force was strong.
It was.
With this voyage.
And that's one of those things why we definitely wanted to keep, you know, like, we're going to do it again next year.
Right.
So that way people that weren't able to come, they're able to come. And there's that event that we could look forward to.
Right.
But I'm hoping that if anybody's listening, anybody that's like sees, you know, our stories, anything like that, and they decide to do, and again, we have friends that are doing, you know, the buyout voyages, like the
cosplay exclusive voyages.
They're doing their thing. But I hope others see that if you pull together with, you know, pull your friends together, pull your communities together and go on these things, like, you're going to have a great time.
But you did let it slip that I think we've officially announced it, like, on a few different channels now, but we are going to do this next year.
Yeah. We hope to, right?
We hope to. So we have rebranded it because it was kind of like the May 3rd voyage is what we didn't really have a good name for it. We're calling it the Galactic Starcruiser, emphasis on crew, because that's what we all are now. We're one big crew. But the Galactic Starcruiser 2024, the ultimate fan voyage, because that's what this was. It was just the ultimate fans getting to go experience it and play.
Yeah.
So we will be doing it again next year. We've already changed the Facebook name, group name over to that. And so if you want to get in on it, you can. You want to join my Facebook group?
Sure.
Thanks. But I think that's about a good place to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you are on the voyage, drop your highlights in the comments either on YouTube or on Instagram. And if you're completely new to Starcruiser, we recapped the entire voyage completely spoiler-free so that you can be prepared over on my personal Instagram, Sarah J. Mack. We will link that in the show notes.
Also, if you'd like to come hang out with us on our live streams, we've changed our schedule from Wednesdays to Tuesdays, so make sure you hit that notification bell.
Until next time.